I'm Dana Gonzales, and this is the Cinematography Podcast.
The following podcast contains explicit language. You're listening to the Cinematography Podcast presented by Hot Rod Cameras, a program about the art, craft, and philosophy of the moving image and the people who make it happen. Coming to you from the world headquarters of Hot Rod Cameras in Hollywood, California, are your hosts, Ben Rock and Ilya Friedman.
Hey, Ilya, how the heck are you doing today?
The heck, I am doing great. I'm doing so well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I think I've alluded to the fact that I'm about to start work on a new thing, a new audio project, and my writing partner Bob and I started. Not to be too mysterious, but
Exciting.
It's a horror audio project.
You know what? As you do, as you specifically do, you are a horror audio guy. So
Didn't know that was not on my bingo card for life, but I'll take it. I like audio drama. Anyway, so Ilya, who do we have on the show?
we've got returning champion Dana Gonzales. Dana Gonzales, of course, the director, DP, sometimes DP, and executive producer of the new Alien Earth series. He's back, and we talk all about Alien Earth, and we kind of venture off into some other areas as well too. He's a fascinating guy. I love our conversations, and this one will not disappoint. So if you
okay, so let me ask you: did you talk about the Toxic Avenger remake that he shot?
No, I didn't talk about the time. This is why you needed to be there, Ben, because
I was unable to be on this call, and I just saw the Toxic Avenger remake in theaters, and let me preface this by saying I'm not a big Troma fan. People love Tromeo and Juliet, and Toxic Avenger was okay, Sergeant Kabuki Man, et cetera, but I went and saw the remake of Toxic Avenger, and holy crap, did everyone making that movie know the assignment?
Wow, okay,
It feels like a send up of like RoboCop and Repo Man and a bunch of like 80s movies where cackling gangs of tough jerks are roaming around the city doing terrible things to people.
Wow.
It looks great. It stars Peter Dinklage and Kevin Bacon.
Wow. It's wow.
It's really good. No, it's really good. And I say this as someone who, like, when people start telling me how much they love Troma, I'm like, you don't love Troma. You love
the idea of Troma.
You love schlocky independent films. Like, there's a kind of schlockiness that appeals to you. And I wouldn't say this movie is unschlocky, but it's got a bunch of gross outs and stuff in it because that's what the Toxic Avenger is all about. But it's really good and has a lot of heart. Can I say that? It had a lot of heart.
That's awesome.
And it's super gross, but Dana did a kick-ass job of shooting it. I would have, much like with Tom Siegel and me talking about The Usual Suspects, I would have dragged him out of Alien Earth, kicking and screaming, to tell me about the Toxic Avenger.
Ben, he will be back on the show again. You can do the interview, and you can dive way into Toxic Avenger. So, yeah.
Look out, Dana. I'm coming for you.
All right, Ben. So it is our close focus time of the show.
And now, Close Focus.
What's going on in the industry right now? I mean, it seems like there's some things happening. What do we have to yak about?
Emmys is what's happening, and you already looked all of it up. So what you told me right before we started recording is that every Emmy-winning DP we've freaking had on the show.
That's right.
I think that's a first.
I think we should take credit for it too, that the reason they won is that they came on the show. Really, that's what it is. They won because they were here yakking to you and me about the work that they did.
But for like all the awards, especially the Oscars too, it's like it's always our goal to get all of them on. And I think our best right now was for Oscars.
Yeah,
was 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
But we didn't get all the nominated Emmy nominees here.
No, that's
redundant.
We did get all the winners. We got the winners.
Yeah. So let me have them. Who are they? Who are they?
Cinematography for a series half hour. The Studio, Adam Newport Barra, who I interviewed, which is fantastic.
Freaking great.
I mean, such a great show. And then cinematography for a 1 hour series, Jessica Lee Gagne for Severance, of course.
Wow.
Which we interviewed. Fantastic. And then of course, the cinematography for a limited or anthology series or movie you interviewed, and that's Matthew Lewis.
Can I say it?
No, you go ahead. Go right ahead.
Adolescence. Holy shit. Least surprising award winner of all time. Holy crap. Adolescence is so great.
You know, I got to say, though, if you look at the people that won and you were just like zooming out sort of the overall feel of the winners, you'd say that long takes are in. Like long takes and like oneers are like, it'd be like the trend right now. So, but
I mean, Adolescence is like, you can't do a longer take than Adolescence. Like it's, and the director and that DP had done a feature that was also a one take. Like one giant oneer.
You know, the studio is filled with long takes as well too. Like, you know, many of the episodes really feel like it's almost unbroken. There's hidden shots, of course, and then there's the opening of season 2 of Severance, which is a trick shot, but it goes on for a very, very long time. Like, I wonder if there'll be more people trying to do oneers now. I wonder if this will
here's
inspire.
The thing about oneers is it's like, I mean, oneers have been around forever. I mean, like probably the best example or the earliest example would be Hitchcock's Rope. But you know, and there have always been movies like Russian Ark, which, you know.
And just famous long oneers like Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil, correct. But I feel like starting in 2006 with Children of Men, oneers, like people saw what Lubeski did on that and were like, I'm going to do that. And it started feeling gimmicky. And now they don't feel gimmicky. Like I feel like in Adolescence, in all the shows rather that we just talked about, it never feels gimmicky.
Not
it all
once.
feels
No.
baked into the actual storytelling in an organic way. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm particularly impressed with, Adam Newport Barra's oneers too, because like, there are cuts, there are absolutely cuts. And they didn't kill themselves to actually really create it as a oneer, as I know Adolescence really did. They really made it. It's this incredible hybridization of making it feel like a oneer, sneaking in some cuts, and it seemed to me like they really did a great job making their days and didn't have to do like these massive resets if for some reason something blew. No. They figured out ways to put it all together.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times leveraging technology. A lot of times it's just spending your time designing the shots so you're not just like, hey, let's hose it down. Let's like really make this a special thing, which is not to say that if you shoot coverage, you're doing something wrong. A lot of great storytelling is done with lots of coverage and lots of fast cuts. And, you know, I mean, I think you're nailing it. It's trend that we're seeing a lot of right now. Maybe we'll see more of it. Maybe it's peaked. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, at some point, is it going to be like the 1980s smoke shafts of light through smoke, or, you know, the 2000s orange and teal look where it's like, oh yeah, I can tell this was made around 2025 because there's all these long takes.
Yeah, there was a period of time where everything had a swing shift, shot in it from a music video in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's like, you know.
I love those lenses, but yeah, I mean, you can beat anything to death. I mean, I remember speed ramps being overdone, and, you know, speed ramps, very useful as a storytelling device.
Yeah, well, let's see. What's the antithesis of the long take then? Would it be lots of quick cuts? Would it be the MTV style, like 1, 2, 3 second sort of cuts? Are we going to have like a backlash to this? Yeah.
The opposite, but also very artistic version of that is like Paul Greengrass, where you know, it's like it's well covered, but to a certain degree, you're shooting a pile of feathers and making a chicken out of it in post. You know, and I mean, it's a legitimate way to do it. And the thing about Paul Greengrass is, you know, it's like, you know, 1,000mm lens or 22mm lens, whatever. Like it's one or the other, you know, and he's trying to make you feel voyeuristic. Like, yeah, it's all for an effect. So so to me, the question is, what's the effect of the long take? You know, is it immersive? To me, the test of it is, does it feel immersive, or as an audience member, am I like, holy shit, they haven't cut? Oh no! But I mean, like, there are definitely moments. Well, I mean, it didn't pull me out of Adolescence, but knowing that I was going to be, you know, talking to the DP, watching Adolescence, I'm like, and now it's a drone. How the hell did he do that? You know, and now it's on a crane, and now it's handheld.
And you know what, though, you are the minority. I would still say that most of the people watching the show are completely not conscious of these things too.
Agreed.
So yeah,
I think most people. I mean, I think that most people. I don't think that these shows are designed for people to sit there and analyze the way they're shot. I think that they have an unconscious response to what they're watching, and I think that, you know, something like Adolescence doesn't give you a chance to blink or to breathe or to take your eyes off of it. And that's the idea.
I'm really curious, too, how many people really are doing the second screen type of thing with shows like these. Because, like, I know that executives at networks and studios love to say, like, oh, so many people now have their phone open and their laptop open and they're doing something simultaneously and these shows are just, like, playing in the background. I'm going to call bullshit on that. I think that shows like these in particular, The Studio, Severance, Adolescence, these shows command your attention. They require you to be actively engaged.
You can't be paying half attention to Severance.
Yeah.
To any of these.
You can't.
Really. Were there others on the list of the Emmys?
So here's a quick sort of like major recap of the wins for the Emmy Awards. Apple TV's The Studio topped the list with 9 Emmys, followed by HBO Max's The Penguin with 8, Apple's Severance 6, Disney Plus's Andor, and then Netflix's Arcane and Love, Death, and Robots. God, I did it twice. Love, Death, and Robots. Love, Death, and Robots. Each one That's 4. Funny. Prime Video's The Boys.
Love, Death, and Robots is awesome.
Yeah, it's not Love, Death, and Roberts. Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah.
Love, Death, and Chief Justice Roberts. What?
Prime Video's The Boys and Netflix's Bridgerton each took home 3, and then HBO Max's The Pit and Adolescence each took 2.
Not a loser in that bunch. That's a great bunch of shows.
Yeah, let me tell you, people talk about like us, being on the decline of peak TV. That's only in numbers. That's not in quality. These are
Yeah. Well, I think the quality is here to stay. We're making less stuff now. That's just life.
Yeah, but you know what? That gives you more chance to see the stuff that's really good. There's so much more really good stuff. So anyway, Ben, I think that just about does it for our close focus. Let's get to the interview with Dana Gonzales.
Let's go.
The Cinematography Podcast Interview.
I'm joined now by Dana Gonzales. Dana started his career as a director of photography and has had a long-time collaboration with Noah Hawley, starting back on the TV series Fargo, and then, of course, continuing with Legion and now Alien Earth. This collaboration has seen Dana, your career morph and change, and you've become the most unique hybrid of people I think I've ever spoken to in this industry, from director of photography to director to executive producer. Welcome back to the Cinematography Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. You guys do great work, and anytime I see the email, I'm always willing to be here.
Well, it's great. It's really a delight to have you back. I want to talk about our usual stuff, art, craft, and philosophy. Let's talk about Alien, and particularly what I think I'm most interested in, really, and I want to get into, is that there's something really unique that you and Noah seem to do, particularly with like Fargo and now with Alien, which is you take something that's familiar, you take the world that people have some sort of established, feeling or understanding of, but then make it original. It's an original story in a familiar world. It doesn't feel like a reboot. It doesn't feel like, some sort of like easy carbon copy. It's new original stories using a familiar world and setting. How much of this conversation goes into the formative structure of what it is that you're doing? How important is this idea of old and new merging together?
Well, both Fargo and Alien, you're taking on some strong material. You're taking on some holy grail for the super fans, and I believe. And I think Noah believes the same. We don't run away from that stuff. The reason we're reimagining it is because it is so popular and loved, and people want to see more. It's not because we need to do better because those original people did bad. And I think sometimes remakes and reimagines and there's always like, I've been on the end of somebody telling me, not to look at the original material. We're not going to even think about the original material. And I think that's a mistake because the original is that feeling you had when you watched the Fargo or Alien, specifically Alien. is what we're trying to reproduce. I mean, that's what you're going to hear in any interview with Noah. That was his goal. And how do you do that, especially on horror? Fargo, it's different because it's not horror, but all of a sudden, the horror, you have the xenomorph. You know kind of what that is about. Now there's been 7 movies or 9, depending on what kind of fan you are, so what he did that was incredible was he brought in 5 new creatures, right? That you don't know what they're going to do. So that was his kind of like very, very intelligent kind of entry into like how but we're still going to have the xenomorph. We're still going to, go down. There's an incredible xenomorph arc that will happen over the show. And so, because I think, you can't eliminate that, then everybody's just like, what are you doing? On Alien, we really wanted to tap into the first 2 movies. I think aesthetically, the first one, just because I feel like I don't care what Alien movie you watch, you're always kind of in back of your head thinking about the first one. Mm. And, so that was very interesting to us. And the sets and everything are there's exact replications. Like the Maginot is the Nostromo for most, 99%. And, and so we wanted to go into that. Look, it's always going to be different, right? You have a different set of filmmakers. You have different performers, different, the characters are different. The story's different. So that's going to naturally happen. So, and I think Noah that's where it's always going to be different because he's going to write the way he writes. He's going to write these characters the way he writes. And then now we have another thing that no one does in the movies. We have, in the first season, we have 8 hours. We have potentially 50 hours, 60 hours. Who knows what the series will be. So that right there changes everything, right? And that's a tall order too. So now you want to pay homage to the movie, the franchise, and then you have this new story, new characters thing that you have to introduce. And the truth of the matter is that, and it's the same as Fargo. The truth of the matter is, not everybody has even seen Alien that watches Alien Earth. Okay, my daughter hasn't seen Alien or Aliens or any of those, and is a huge Alien Earth fan. And I think, so maybe Alien Romulus was people's first. I bet you that was a lot of the people watching the show's first entry into the Alien franchise was Alien Romulus because it came out last year. It was a big hit. And it was very accessible. It was, successful blockbuster film.
Yeah, it required not having seen anything before either. It can be completely a standalone. Yeah.
Yeah, it was built that way. And, if you're a fan, then you could, basically you're going to take it apart and go, why is this, why are they on this planet and what, whatever. Well, why is the year different or whatever? And so it's basically we're servicing all these people, right? And we want to tell that story. But then you have the fans, they're rabid, the Alien fans. Like the Fargo fans weren't as rabid as the Alien fans. We pay homage on Fargo. All the seasons we pay homage to the Coen universe, not just Fargo. Maybe the first season was a little bit more Fargo, but there's like any of their films, some of The Serious Man or whatever. There's these different homages to it, so it kind of pleases that universe. And so when you're tasked with telling this longer story, it changes really everything, right? And so again, like I think Noah and I are just like we don't want to run away from what worked on the original the show, and it really is, like I said, Noah, what he talks about is the feeling. That's the key, and it's like I'm a huge foreign film fan. And I wish, and all the times I see these great stories that they don't make in American films, and I wish I could bring those to American audiences. It's because of the feeling.
Yeah, of course.
It's because of the way I feel after I watch the movie, right? And I don't want to like bring that movie like to American audiences and go like, well, let me do it, in my way, or let me
ruin this for you. Yeah,
let me move this shit around, and because I'm smarter than the original person, or I'm better than
No.
Both Noah and I like literally do not have that thought in our heads, and then just as you go down the road. Effectively, things are going to be different. You're going to make these choices. You're going to make modern choices. You're going to make, the original movie didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he was making, some of his choices,
budgetary.
In the blue laser, that's I did in episode 2 as well. The laser that he was literally, the story goes for that. They were at Shepperton or whatever they shot that, and next door with the Who was rehearsing, and they had lasers, and Ridley saw the lasers, and literally the next day they shot that scene, and he brought the lasers in, or within the week. He was reacting to things that were happening, and here we are now. We have tremendous more money. Mm-hmm. We shot in Thailand, and we have this like massive situation with sets and crew and. And then again, building this season 1, 8-hour story, it's like you already got so many things going. And then the beauty of this show too, is that you could tap into the franchise. So it's like, there's things like I did look at 3 and, I looked at some Resurrection, and I looked at different things for different elements, that I was able to bring in and stuff like that, because I just, that again, they were, believe it or not, even though those are all different looking movies and different, they were all tapping into Alien. Like I said, I think people approach it different ways, and we to answer really your question is we always just try to honor the original work. And it's like the beginning of episode 1, the cry when they're waking up from the cryopod. It's a very similar vibe to the original movie, but it's like. It was important for us to like bring the audience into the movie, into the feeling in the movie, right? And then quickly you're going away from it. So like it's not like we're trying to like, oh, we're gonna frame grab and match everything, But it's just like, again, the new audience, they had never seen that, they never felt that, and then the old audience, they could say, oh, well, these guys are interested in honoring the franchise. And then you're going to have the haters that basically just said, oh, why'd they do it that way? Like I could have done it better. And it's like, okay, well, when you have your shot at remaking Alien or reimagining it, let's see what happens.
I'm really very pleased with your answer, and and I'll tell you why, and make sure I heard this correctly, but it sounds like that you and Noah working together here have a lot of empathy for the original material. You want to bring forth, this empathetic response in the audience to have the same sort of feelings that you experienced when you were watching that original material. And it's, in Alien in particular, like, I mean, I definitely felt it with Fargo too, because I'm seeing entirely original stuff, but I'm getting really serious, I'm going to quote the vernacular of my teenage kids. I was getting Coen Brothers vibes. I was getting serious vibes from the whole thing. And for me, that was so much fun. Alien Earth is the same sort of thing. There's a sense of existential dread. There's a lot of like, there's a tremendous amount of respect for the audience because it's putting forth these feelings that, particularly in the original Alien, and I'd say to a lesser extent, but also Aliens, the first 2 movies, the Ridley Scott, the Jim Cameron, this version of Aliens. This is technically a prequel. It's taking place 2 years before even the first Alien movie, and you've done such an incredible job of getting the look through production design, but also overall the look of this to feel like it's not completely out of that world. Obviously, it's more modern technology, but can you talk a little bit about how you went about trying to recreate 2 years prior to the look of the original Alien?
Yeah, well, that already tells you that the tech is similar, right? And and then obviously we're going to Earth, which we haven't seen in any of the other movies. So that's an all new thing. And you spend actually a lot of time thinking about that, because that's kind of the new thing that you're not copying or looking at or for reference. You have to create that yourself. And with like Fargo, for instance, because of the lensing of and the pace and editorial pace of like the Coens and like Roger Deakins, the way they constructed Fargo, like season one, we wanted to really pay homage to that, because again, if we started doing like a handheld sequence, it would just stand out like that.
Yeah,
their storytelling works the way that their editorial pace works. It kind of works with the lensing, yes, there's some Raising Arizona and some of this stuff and all that, but it's not like handheld. It's not whatever. We had a Steadicam that we barely used, and we didn't even have a Steadicam for the rest of 5 seasons. So Alien's the same thing. Now it was different because I don't think, Ridley has the same kind of restraints with the lensing. Yes, he wasn't using wide angle close-ups, right? So I wasn't, we weren't, I did want to respect that. And I studied the frames and there's a lot of things in Alien that are like three shots. And then maybe a lot of scenes are maybe a 3-shot and then maybe one close-up or something. That's like the editorial kind of build of the scene. And so, I was constantly thinking that way, and we already don't, we don't shoot coverage for coverage sake in anything we do. We shoot scenes with coverage that are appropriate to the material, but we like oneers. We like to stay in a 2-shot, and it's the same. I think with that, that's like our aesthetic kind of thing we like about storytelling. So that we're gonna do whatever. We shot, it was very important to me to shoot anamorphic and 235. And we're the first show to do that with effects. But, I also used a good argument. I just said, well, Star Wars is in Mandalorian, all these, it's in 235 or 240, whatever it is. And the franchises. And I think it changes the game when you go like 16:9 or something, and they shot 240. So, especially when we're matching Aliens. So
framing is so important for that. If you want to create a mental connection and you're deviating from it, I got to imagine even if it's subconscious in the mind of the audience, they know that they're not looking at the same thing.
It's a different thing, and again, it's like even the new audiences. We want them to feel what we felt on Alien. So we're like, again, we're not trying to be like, hey, I mean, who has watched Alien that thought like it should have been different? You know what I mean?
No.
Nobody.
No, yeah.
Right? You don't walk out of the film going, it should be different.
I wish that was more like 4x3. And no one has said this ever. Yeah. This doesn't happen.
I mean, maybe someone said that, but it just didn't mean anything. And it's like, yes, the tools have changed slightly in the years, of course. And they shot the original on 100 ASA film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. 47.
Really amazing to do 100 ASA film with like all those, like even the mother and all those little lights and like, I can't even imagine how bright it was or how bright everything had to be. And it doesn't look like it. Yeah. It doesn't like, it's like,
no,
it's not like it's like super contrasty and like just light and dark. It has that, but it still holds up and you could see everything. So, that was another thing. And, Tom Poole, the colorist, and I, anytime we do a project together, we talk about it beforehand, and we built a show LUT that would kind of support, a very filmic look and the look of Alien and then the anamorphic of it all. And then, I didn't use C-series lenses there was a couple reasons, and one of them we wanted to incorporate zooms into the show, and the Hawk lenses are what we ended up using, and I had a variety of mixture of Hawks, and they have some incredible zooms, and so that was it just worked out that way, and I think it so it's again, it's using some of the ingredients of the original and to bring it there. I use some filtration that does a little bit more, and so there's a lot of different things going. On any of these projects I do, Alien or Fargo, every year is a different story and a different look, and so we always kind of have these, and those have different lenses or different processes or whatever it is, and it's very important for me to stay kind of in that, I kind of, I'll call it like my toolbox, and I like to stay within the framework of these things, and I don't want to go outside of it too much. And and if it's even some of the restraints of like what the restraints they may have had on an Alien versus what we can do today with all the different tools, right? So it's of course we had Technicrane, right? We had a Technicrane all the time, so that's something they didn't have on Alien, and so we're that stuff's kind of seeping in, But I do like to, if you ask anybody that works with me closely, I do like to stay really in my lane with it all, because then I think it's just like this discipline and it's uniformity, and and then I think that I feel like the audience depends on it. Like it's like episode 1 hopefully feels like episode 8, right? And completely, and that's super important to me.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there is, you guys have 3 directors who are dividing up duties for the Alien Earth, and it does feel very consistent across them. And I think that the look of the show feels very consistent as well. How do you eat this elephant? How do you split this up when you guys are deciding who's going to take on what responsibilities, take on directing from directing, shooting? It's a massive project. How do you guys divide it up?
Well, I think that the thing that we'll probably continue to do, Noah and I, we always he directs the first episode or first 2 on Fargo, let's say, but the first. And then I shoot it with him. And then that's where we build the world. That's where we build the world together. And that's where I learn more and more and more of what he wants to do with the story, and the arc. And that's kind of grounds us, right? And it's like, he's the creator. He knows what he wants to do. And then we have our shorthand him and I have. It's like we get to what the shows will look like and feel like in a very kind of easy, organic way that sometimes comes down to a very few conversations. He'll say something, I'll go off and think about it, and then I'll bring something. Maybe it's an image, maybe it's one shot, and then maybe we'll build from there. And then, so, episode 5, he was always, he run the do. And that's like the truest kind of, remake or whatever to Alien.
It doesn't feel like a remake though. It feels,
or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
it's like, no, it's great. It feels, it's a similar situation, but it feels wholly original. And I think that's kind of the magic of the show. I think that's kind of the magic.
Well, you have naturally new characters and new actors and all these things. And again, the storytelling is going to be whatever, but that was like, that was important to him to do that. So 1 and 5, and then basically like, I think it's important now for me to do like the follow-up episodes, and which is not always easy if I shoot the first episode, but this way we were able to do it because of some scheduling things. And then, I kind of, I I basically did episode. I directed 2, 3, 7, and 8. So I did the finale and everything, and then we, Noah and I, so we talk, right? And it's just because I'm part of the overall thing. I'm not like a episodic director coming in. I'm producing and we talk about everything. So also when I'm directing, it's like we could have these kind of honest conversations about, what we want to do with these episodes, what's working, or what about this or whatever. So, and that's kind of evolving, and so where, traditionally like episodic directing, showrunners, they're a little hands off, right? They don't want to just, be in constant contact with that director, and the director doesn't want them to be in. The directors come in and they want to do what they do, and yes, they I think they love to hear from the showrunners, but effectively they were hiring them because they have this thing and they have this talent, and we believe that they're going to bring something to the story. So they're really the short answer is that I'm in contact with Noah. I'm constantly in contact with him. We have a similar aesthetic. I have the thing that has been one of the most attractive things about this collaboration is that he's got my back, and I could push things creatively, knowing he has my back, and knowing we'll reshoot it if there's a problem. I try things, I throw it out there, I do whatever, and he I think he comes to expect that and likes that, and that's kind of how I evolved from shooting on season 1 of Fargo, where we met, to where I am today with him, and then also I'm there to the end. I work on the color for all their shows to the end. I'm kind of like the quality control of it all. I work with post and just make sure everything is as good as it can humanly be, which it's not easy. There's a lot of things that can go haywire that way, and to me, I'm like I not for any one person, but just situations. So that's how it's evolved. It just, again, he's going to do 1 and 5. It's good for me to do the follow up, and it's good for me to do the end, and then that only left 2 episodes, kind of in the middle. And and that was great because I was so busy. Like, thank God that we had another director, just because, I'm the producing director as well. Mm-hmm. I'm doing second units at times. I'm doing, new things that are added. I'm working particularly on every episode. Anything that needs something, I'm doing, and and then I'm trying to balance prepping and things like that. So, like, my role as the executive producer on Alien and anything else is I'm like the creative executive producer, right?
You sound like the creative glue. Money. You sound like glue.
But that's what I've done on all our stuff. I am. Look, Noah, he lives in Austin, Texas. He's where we shoot in Thailand. We shoot in Calgary. We shoot, wherever. And even some of the directors, like, I'm the closest thing they're going to get to him on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I've always been like that on Fargo, Legion, Alien, right? So, and that is what I do, right? And so I know, like, hey, go ahead and do this. Go for it. Or I better talk to Noah.
Yeah.
Or in my experience, maybe you shouldn't do this or something. Like, I am that person, right? So and then again, we have this great group of, like, people that have been around collectively in post and everything, that that understand and know how Noah works, and know that we're not cutting corners, and we're pushing to make the best possible thing. Noah says on the beginning, like the very first kind of like production meeting or concept meeting, whatever the first meeting is, where you have the room of the most people, he always says, if you're gonna make one, we think we should make the best one. And we feel that even more strongly about that on season 2 or season 3 or season. Like we don't rest on our laurels.
Yeah, I got to
right?
raise stakes.
Just because,
yeah.
Just because Fargo is a good example. Season 1 killed it. We won every award there was to win. But season 2 is sometimes people call it the fan favorite, and it certainly was an incredible sophomore
effort,
season, right? And because I don't rest on my laurels. We don't, and people do like
yeah, exactly.
That's different because we have to tell this new story. But if you're doing like a show that you're kind of in the same world, and you had this incredible successful season 1, for some reason season 2 they give you less money.
Yeah,
and also people think, well, whatever we throw on the wall, it's going to stick. And it's just not true. You have to work harder.
I agree.
And people don't particularly want to do that. And that's maybe been, I think if you talk to anybody about me, that's my thing. I can't help myself about pushing to get this thing. And there's nothing worse than having something that I think is going to be great not get conceived, not get done, not get fleshed out, like to let something fall on the floor when it's right there in front of me. I can't.
Well,
it's in my DNA.
I want to ask you a little bit more questions about this, because these are clearly different muscles, and it's a different muscle to just be the DP of something. It's a different muscle to be the director of something. It's a different muscle to be the creative, executive producer. All of these are different muscles. So, in order for what you're basically describing to me is like the triathlete, or you're describing like someone who runs a decathlon, because you can't just go all in on one thing. And it's so interesting because this industry for the longest time was always about pigeonholing people. You do this, you don't do that. And you get really good at this, and then everyone wants you. But I will say that in the most recent period of time, I'd say the last few years in particular, there seems to be newfound respect for the hybrids, for the people who really can, be a jack of multiple trades. They can really do some stuff. Can you talk about, is it just one hat for you that you quickly switch gears between different things? Or do you feel like, no, I gotta, look, it's been a long time since Pretty Little Liars. I saw on IMDb that was your first directing credit. And I was like, do you feel like you've had to continuously level up your directing? What's your process for saying, okay, I'm now moving into this role. You probably can't bifurcate your brain entirely. You're probably always thinking about other things. How does this work for you?
Okay, well, it starts to look, I think, anybody, I guess there's people that want to be directors their whole life and think a certain way, and then there's someone like me, a cinematographer, who I never knew my exact role. Like I always felt like cinematography was evoked a feeling, and it to me is like very important to evoke an emotion. And if that that was in lighting, that was in camera movement, that was in storytelling. Along the way, I met some incredible people that, Jimmy Muro is a DP that I worked with a lot, that really taught me a lot about telling the story with the camera. And that was a turning point for me in a lot of ways. And then so basically they came to me and said, we think you should direct Pretty Little Liars, right? And my wife wanted me to direct earlier about things, and I said, I'm not ready yet. And because I had to learn, just even the simple thing of listening to dialogue. A lot of DPs don't even listen to dialogue. I had this thing where I started just having the cans listen to the dialogue. So I tapped into that was a muscle that I spent years kind of tapping into that muscle. So I'm not just now looking at the image or whatever. I'm really hearing what people are saying. As a director, you need to do that. I think my cinematography was always kind of based. I had strong views in where the camera should be. I had strong views in perspective. Well, that really is a director's medium, or at least I think the directors that I really like, there's a strong perspective. So, you meet different directors. There's directors that are all about actors and performance, and there's ones that are more visual, and I like to be both those things. So, and look, you have to get your first one over with. And I know everybody thinks they're great directors, even when they're doing their first short thing. And you have to get the first one, and you have to make those mistakes. What was one of my early mistakes? Not really understanding the POV. POVs are super important. They sound stupid. They sound basic when you're shooting. It's the least thing that interests you because like you're doing a POV of, some glasses or whatever it is. It's the most basic shot of the whole scene, but it may be the strongest shot of the scene. It's also something that can get you out of jail, and you can switch things from that angle. So you learn that, you do it, and you editorially you're like, oh, fuck, I wish I did that, right? And then so that starts. That's where you start building that, and as an episodic DP. You already have the luxury of working with different people and you understand time, you understand timing, like how much time you have. You understand what you could really do. You understand what you can get away with. You understand what you could, streamline the entire producing process. So, I'm not gonna say this is going to work for everybody, but, when you're kind of really interested, because I don't think everybody wants to take on what I take on, right? And
it sounds like a lot. It sounds like an awful lot. It sounds like six jobs. It's what it sounds like.
When you're interested, then and you're in the room earlier, right? Then you could stop things from happening that are just going to be bad for the show, destructive for the show, meaningless for the show. You could bring that money back into where it needs to be. And also you're fully invested. So now at a certain point, you can fight for what needs to be in the show. If something's getting cut, you could say, hey man, I really think you should think about this because I really think this needs to be in there. So I've always had this kind of will to be that involved. And I've always had this will to be like in that space in my head. Now it's more fulfilled and actualized because I am able to talk at a higher level about those things. I am able to bring those things up from the beginning. I am able to have those conversations months, years before we start shooting. Instead of just, I don't think frustrated is the right word, but instead of just kind of being on the sidelines and just
you're getting to shape this.
I want to make this better.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt us. It sounds like what you're saying is that you, by getting in these conversations earlier, by being in the formative processes, it's not so much of just having to accept whatever the situation is, that you're responsible for helping to create the situation in the first place. So you have a higher degree of confidence that things are going to get executed exactly how it was foreseen. Do I get that right?
Yeah. Or respond to what's happening and like it's like look to me I think one of the biggest things, I love discovery. I think filmmaking is about discovery. I think that's a thing that's getting lost a little bit. I mean I've met with directors as a DP where they like had an animatic of everything, like literally like storyboards or whatever. Everything, and they're like, this is exactly what I do. They haven't even scouted the location yet. They don't even know what's where, and they think they know the height of the camera and everything. You don't know the height of the camera.
Yeah.
You don't know if you have to be lower, the ceiling is great or whatever. You have no idea. There's that whole other factor where there's discoveries happening and you're pivoting. And you basically say, look, this is right there. Oh my God, look at where we are. Look what's happening. Look at this thing, or what an actor brings to that discovery, right? And you're able to like, wow, that's a really great idea. Let's do that. Well, some of those are big decisions that are made that have ramifications. That are, I guess, right or wrong. But, I like to think, the more I understand of what we're doing, totally, the better that's going to be. So I'm not just thinking about this episode or this thing or, and then the other thing as a DP becoming a director and a producer, it's like you how do you not think only visually, right? Mm-hmm. Like like some DPs are always fighting for this visual thing, which is what they do, and I get it, and that's what we do. But I'm like, so I might have to make a bit of a compromise to tell the story, because that's the story needs to. So it's maybe that they're not right next to the window or whatever it is that, that because this is what needs to make sense for this. Where, as a DP, you're like fighting for that, to put him in this position, or you're more interested in this wide shot than you are in this other shot, because you know that's going to be a strong image, but is it really going to tell the story, right? So you're balancing that, and and it's like, also, look, I think it's we do want to be fiscally responsible, but like, I guess for me, being fiscally responsible is like, don't waste the money on things we don't need, like things that just don't mean anything, things that aren't going to help the story and aren't going to push it forward, and then fight for something that it is, and versus like I'm not coming in at it like a production manager or line producer that their job is kind of about trying to hold the line. I respect that. That's not my job. I don't deal with that. But like, if I'm like, this is $500,000 on something that I know I don't care about, I know Noah's not going to care about, and it's not going to do anything for the show, let's not do it, because I'm going to need that $500,000 for something else. Trust me, I will need it. So, but that comes from a total production, 30 plus years of experience, filmmaking, and trying to exact things out of the budget. And that's no different than Kubrick. Kubrick, like, he took whatever, a year plus to make movies. He had a crew of 20 people. He came in budget. The reason they didn't even really care about what he did is because he came in on a budget. And, but he was making these choices. So like, if he wanted to reshoot 30 times and he could do that and he can afford it, he did it, right? And it's also maintaining the show. So I maintained the show by doing the pilot and creating the look and working on all those things. Then I follow it through to the end. And it's not, no one's going to stop that. Like, no one's going to be suddenly, well, like, I'm going to do my own thing, or I don't care. No, it is what we talked about from the beginning. It's what the show's going to be, right or wrong. We don't know. When the show hasn't came out yet, all we know is what we think is going to work, right? And so, but we're gonna maintain it to the end. So I look at all those things, right? And I like to think I'm more of a champion than I'm, not. I mean, I want to help people do great work. I want to push people to do great work. I want to push people to do work even more than they think they've ever done or are capable of. Mm-hmm. Because this business does have these things like, this is how we do it. I don't know what that is. I haven't read that book. I don't know how we do it. I literally have had a very, very long career. I've done a lot. I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what that means to, like, this is how we do it. But you hear it. You show up at places and like, well, this is what we normally do. This is how we do it. And it's like, I don't know what that means.
I think that's very contrarian and actually kind of wonderful. I like that there's not a preconception of like, because we've established one way of doing it, that there is no other way. I think that the industry it's been in a state of turmoil for the last couple of years, and granted, this is not exactly on the topic of Alien Earth. And if you tell me you really don't want to talk about anything except for Alien Earth, that's fine. We don't have to go down it. But
let's talk about whatever. Because to me it all kind of goes into what we're doing and what we will do.
All right, so. Actually, I'll tie it into Alien right now. Alien is wonderful at existential dread. There's a wonderful aspect of eeriness, and you don't know what's going to happen around the corner. And even when exposition is happening, there's an overwhelming sense of dread. I would describe the last couple of years of this industry, basically ever since the strikes of 2023, of having this sort of like existential dread. There was this existential dread of artificial intelligence. There was this existential dread of, the production world. In your perspective, the existential dread of AI, the existential dread of strikes, where do you see, the trajectory of things happening? Or is it all just going to go overseas and is it all gloom and doom? I don't necessarily believe that, but I'm curious to get your take.
Hollywood has evolved and it will evolve. And anybody who thinks that it hasn't or won't or whatever, or they're owed something, they're just not, okay? And it's like, the thing I think about new technology is it levels the playing field. Like anybody can come into this world easier than they can when I first started. When I first started in the 80s, there was film cameras, there was the same processes. So it didn't matter if you were doing $100,000 movie or you were doing a $20 million movie or whatever at the time.
Same tools.
They shot film, they printed, they developed, they printed, they made a cut from the work print. That's what supported all the labs and everything in Hollywood. And a lot of times, like, there was no 20-year-old DPs. Caleb Deschanel, was a guy that but he's like, there's nobody that was like Caleb Deschanel, right? That was that age that did that. That was, or Orson Welles. Like these are like
outliers. Big time. Yeah.
Like, right now you have younger people, right? So then there was you had to kind of work your way up, and maybe around 50 years old you became a DP or something like this, and then things changed, things contracted, it's a business. So just purely based on business, things contract, that studios need to stop making money, whatever. And digital cameras came out, before the digital, what we think is now, and non-tape based digital stuff. They had tape stuff, and they tried to make that work, and it worked a little bit.
Yeah,
it just
not really.
Didn't really grab on. The movie 28 Days, the Danny Boyle one. That's what I saw that movie, and I'm like, oh my God, I need it now. I see the light, and I need to do a digital movie. That was a big thing. And then you have the people fighting it, like, no, I'm only going to shoot film or whatever. And there was this dividing line, right? And it's like you either, and really the digital thing for the moment was going to win. So those things are going to happen, right? And then somebody's going to come along and make a great film because of it. Someone's going to, Sean Baker's going to make a film on Tangerine on an iPhone. But not everybody kept doing that, but he made that film. But things change, and the new positions are created. My first and second film, early years of, as an assistant, we had a box of primes, we had a camera, we barely had a cart. Today,
probably no video tap either.
No video tap. Yeah. Today we have 9 carts, 10 carts in the camera department. Yeah. We have, utility people. We have all these, way more jobs than we used to have. And that's the same if you're doing a lower budget movie or it's the same 9 carts on a $2 million movie as it is on a $100 million movie. So there's already been job creation based on that. So AI. Well, we've been doing crowd replication forever. Yeah. So it's like we've been doing scene extension or set extension forever. Labs, like the labs either went away or now they just didn't have the staffing they once had.
Pacific Title.
Yeah, and but then there's been new companies that are created. That did they take this same amount of jobs? Did they give it probably more jobs? I would think, right? I don't know. Anybody that's spent a lot of time with AI, it's like that an AI script is going to be shit. Yeah, can it write a script? Yeah, but you're gonna have to read it, proofread it, rewrite it. I mean, it's like you're not going to just accept it and do that. Will that change one day? I still think it's never gonna be. Yes, there'll be something, but somebody's gonna. The original thought person is always going to be there, and they could write the script, and they could go to the studio and like, here's the AI script, and here's the script written by Noah Hawley that is incredible. They're going to go with the incredible,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Does it change the equation?
It sounds to me like you're saying that's a continuum. That all of this is a continuum. There's always been disruption.
We have to find our place.
Yeah.
Right? We have to find our place. And it's like, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that from my start in the 80s to now, I've had to find my place. I've had to see 28 days and then say, I'm going to shoot digital. So I've had to make all these decisions. Otherwise, I would have not got that particular job, which got me the next job, which got me the next job. If I just said, no, I'm a film purist. I mean, today it's easier to be a film purist. Maybe
there's very few of them.
But there's some DPs out there who are like, you can tell that really hold the line.
Sure.
And that's cool. I dig that. But I think now you could almost do that, especially if you have a lot of talent, where there was a time when you just couldn't do that. So you had to evolve. LED lighting came in. And everybody's like, oh, I love incandescent lighting and tungsten lighting. And there was that whole conversation, and which I do as well. But you know what? When you're on these kind of budgets and fast-paced things that we do, when you're able to dim a light 2%, 1%, 3%, like that right before you go. I have every light you ever see on a show I have is on a dimmer.
Yeah.
I can do that in 2 seconds. And the business has changed. So like all of a sudden you're forced to make this decision, right? AI is in the media, so everybody's talking about it and everything. I've used AI to spark conversations with designers, right? Because look, it's not like we just go to a design. We have to talk to a designer about something, about building something.
Sure.
Right? Like, this is what we're thinking, right? We have to have that discussion.
Yeah.
So I can't do it in a visual form. I could draw a picture. I do that all the time. I draw a picture. So now if I come up with something in AI and just say, here's some thoughts. Effectively, they're going to go do what they do. They're going to bring, their talents to it. Believe me, there's people on staff. There's people involved that, I had the lordship scene in episode 2 where they get slaughtered. The lordship answers the door and he's having the party. There's the table and there's those people, right?
Scene.
I hired a designer in Germany to help me kind of like, I told him what I was thinking and it's like, and he made this concept art, right? I don't know if he used AI or not or whatever. I don't know. But he helped me create this concept art for it just so I could have this discussion with wardrobe and everybody, the production designers. And, so that's the way I'm using AI for some of that. So like, now there's prompters and, I've toyed around with some of the Google video and everything like that. It's like, it doesn't, I know that people are getting good at it, but it's not easy. Like that, you can't just, by the time you've plugged and played everything to make this incredible thing, even some of those commercials that are out there, there's some serious time being involved. There's some, maybe it's less people, but there's, it's not, it doesn't, if they're writing the exact thing, like what are they saving? Production costs? Does it put people on the margins, on the edge? When there was the crazy streaming wars and there's like thousands of shows being done, that wasn't even a real film economy. And everybody thought it was, right? A lot of new people got into business. That's not real because there's going to be a contraction. And when that contraction happens, certain people are going to be jettisoned out the back. And other people are just going to continue on the way they are working. It's always going to be hard to get a film made. It doesn't get easier, but it's just like, and there's always been contractions. There's been strikes. There's been whatever, and that's going to happen. So, I wouldn't just be afraid of AI. I'd be afraid of business, finance, the way the Silicon Valley and the way they do business, so you have to learn all these things, and you have to like look at the trends and go with it. And if you're going to make a movie, you have to like, how am I going to get this film made, or what do I have to do to get this film made? All those things have changed. The romance of John Cassavetes borrowing money, to edit and feed his friends and make films, that's just not today. There used to be a day where when I got into business, basically, if you made a film, you could sell it. That's how it was, because there was the foreign market, and they would suck up pretty much any American film, any Western film. That changed. People have to keep up. I need to keep up. Then that's what I do. I keep up. I'm not that talented. I work harder than everybody else. That's what I think I do, and I think I have to do that. I think that's my burden.
Yeah, you ride the bicycle in that gear that you have to pedal really, really fast to make a little bit of progress. I understand completely. And I will tell you, the hard workers always outperform the people who just have a lot of talent, who don't put in the work. So there's something to be said about persistence and hard work, and the willing to put yourself through to adversity and to challenge yourself and educate yourself and do all the things. I think this is really inspirational conversation to the people out there that they might hear you or look at you and go, hey, look, this guy's made it. He can rest on his laurels. And the very thing you're saying is there is no rest. You like this? Yeah. You want to do this? Yeah. You got to keep, you got to keep up the fight. You got to keep it going.
I tell people, because I get asked that question all the time, like, what is the what is the secret?
What's the trajectory? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just working. And I tell them, be out there, be accessible. Don't let that thing pass. That's going to, you don't know where the kernels of your career is going to be. You don't know if that freebie is going to be the thing that you meet that person that you make the next 20 years of films with, right?
Yeah.
So be accessible, right? And any DP, start shooting now, shoot everything, right? And I tell people, spend a really easy one, like put 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, a promotion out. Let people know who you are. Let people know what you want to do. Tell people what you want. Tell people what you want to do. Ask. You don't get anything without asking. It's a constant thing, right? And it's just like, you can't be the great guitar player sitting on a couch. You have to really put it out there, and then you see the people that are sometimes people that I'm not gonna say, I don't want to call it a talent thing, but maybe people that aren't as experienced, that don't have as much. Like some of those people are really doing really well with the way they promote themselves, right?
For sure, yeah.
The beginnings of anybody's career is about mistakes, right? And it's like I've made more mistakes maybe than I've done what I want, but maybe no one wants to, no one has seen that perfectly. But that's what you have to do. You have to make those mistakes. You have to go through those motions, and so like just do it and do all those things. I like that. I think, like I said, technology sometimes makes it easier for some people to get in this business, because all of a sudden there's a thing that somebody even like me needs from them that I don't know because it's new, and they're suddenly the expert and it's new. So what an incredible entry into the business. I'm as excited about the industry as I was in the 80s. Could I have made it today?
Absolutely.
Based on, well, I don't know, but
Absolutely.
It was a different world. It was a different world when I got in.
Sure.
Right. I mean, and then today, I think today more than ever, bringing in all this new thinking is the key. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing, and you meet people that bring in this new concepts of how they do things, and look, the thing about the business that's incredible is like, you're not going to reinvent the wheel, right? There's certain things that are just, you have to do it the way that you're doing it. Like, and people have tried to like deviate from that, but it's a handmade thing. It's a beautiful handmade project thing that we do. And if you just truly love it, like they say, like you'll never be a day of work. That's my gift. That's what I got that someone gave me, whatever.
Yeah.
I have the gift of like, I never worked a day in my life,
yeah.
and,
It's the journey, not not the destination, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic place to leave it. Dana, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure, as always, to chat with you about all these varied things. Alien Earth, available now on Hulu. Everyone should go watch it. Thanks again for being on the Cinematography Podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate going off base a little bit into my world, the world I love, and I'm fully encompassed. So thank you so much for letting me talk about it.
All right, so that was Dana Gonzales. Dana, thank you so much for being on the show. Great to chat again, and I can't wait to finish out this season.
I can't wait to have you come back and talk about the Toxic Avenger. Anyway,
well, I'm really looking forward to the rest of Alien Earth. Episode 5, we didn't even really talk that much about Episode 5 in our conversation, but Episode 5 is so great. Episode 5 feels like, it feels like
I haven't seen Episode 5 yet.
Oh my God.
I'm only on Episode 4.
Episode 5, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's kind of like jumps back like before Episode 1. You get to see all this other stuff, which is great.
Yeah.
So
a friend of mine who does key art for FX told me the same thing. He said Episode 5 is like one of the best episodes of TV he's ever seen. Did Dana direct that one?
He did not direct that one. No, Noah Hawley directed that one. So, Dana did 7 and 8 though, so he's got 2 more coming up.
Excellent. I mean, yeah. I love the series. Like right now, we've got that. We've got Peacemaker. Got a new season of Rick and Morty. I got nothing to complain about.
All right, hey Ben, guess what time it is?
Is it time to boogie?
It is time to boogie.
So we just can't boogie no more?
We got to thank our fine friends over at Laua. It's time to pay the bills. And Laua has sponsored the show, very kindly of them. They make it possible for us to be here yakking about all the things that we do. They make incredible lenses for cinema. I'll just mention this as an aside because it's not actually the product of theirs I really wanted to feature today, which is their incredible wide angle PL mount cinema lenses. They've got a bunch of them, but someone told me recently that they wanted to get some Hawk anamorphic lenses, some zoom lenses, and they could not get them. They couldn't afford them for a project. They were unavailable, and they tested the Laua Proteus, and they loved them. They were like, yes, it's not exactly the Hawk look, but they're like, it is a lot of the Hawk look at a tiny fraction of the price. And they do make both 2x anamorphic zooms and these 2x primes. And they were like, we didn't end up missing the Hawks at all. These were incredible. And we're so glad they went this way, which is great. But I really want to mention the wide angle cinema lenses they have in PL mount. They have PL mount lenses now down to 9mm that cover full frame. So
what?
Yes, the VistaVision. So it's like 9mm. That's incredible. They also make a 12, a 10, and a 14. And it is like these are all amazing lenses. The wide angles and the coverage are just stunning. They're all relatively fast. Well, I should say all but the 9. The 9 is slow. The 9 is a T58, which is not exactly speedy. But when you talk about full frame 9mm coverage, there's almost nothing else out there. So definitely, if you were one of those people who like wide angle, like shooting full frame, and for the most part, I think, all of these lenses are under $1,700. Most of them are $1,499. You should absolutely check out the Laua wide angle PL mount prime lenses. And of course, they're available at Hot Rod Cameras. You can come into Hot Rod Cameras and test them. Hot Rod Cameras happy to help you with all of your Laua lens purchases.
And now, short ends.
So Ben, it is our short end time of the show. It's the time we talk about pet obsessions. What is your pet obsession this week?
I stumbled across something that's happening at Regal Theaters that they are doing not a goddamn thing to publicize, but everyone listening to this should freaking know about it.
Okay.
In September, September 1st through the 30th, Regal is doing Month of Masterpieces. And I learned this when I was just kind of looking at my app, and I saw at Regal Dog Day Afternoon was playing. Just casually, hey, what do you know? Just Dog Day Afternoon. Just no big whoop. Just freaking Dog Day Afternoon. And it's like a different movie every day. and so listen to this lineup: Doctor Strangelove, Interstellar, The Godfather, Citizen Kane, that's playing tonight.
Wow.
The Departed.
Wow.
Goodfellas.
Wow.
Taxi Driver.
Well,
the Thing.
Yeah.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh my God.
Inception, Forrest Gump, Sunset Boulevard, Seven, Pan's Labyrinth, Do the Right Thing, Psycho, the original, not the Gus Van Sant remake.
Jeez.
Saving Private Ryan, Clockwork Orange, Before Sunset. Of all of Linklater's movies, that's an interesting specific
choice.
one to choose.
Yeah.
No shade. It's a good film. Cinema Paradiso.
Wow.
Casablanca.
Oh my God.
Vertigo. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Lawrence of Arabia, Chinatown, and There Will Be Blood.
It is like Regal turned into an amazing art house revival cinema.
Yeah.
That's what an incredible lineup. That's all this month, or when?
Yeah, that's the month of September.
Holy crap!
It says it's select Regal locations. So wherever you are in the country, I would
There's
say
a Regal near me. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Look into it. I mean, I have a Regal pass, so that's why I was checking it out. I see this less as a short end and more of a public service. Check out your local Regal. See if they're doing this. Go see some freaking amazing classic movies. Every one of these is a banger. Every one of these is amazing.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen these, you owe it to yourself to go see it on a big screen. Why the heck not? And then even if you have seen them, you probably haven't seen them recently. And I would say I
gotta say, there's 2 Kubrick movies on this list.
Yeah.
And I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at the Cinerama Dome. It was probably 15 years ago. And I had seen it only on home video my whole life. First on VHS, unfortunately, then on Laserdisc, then on DVD. And then I saw it on the big screen, and I'm like, I don't feel like I've ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey until I've seen it on the big screen. Now, that doesn't count for necessarily every movie ever made, but that movie freaking uses that screen really well, which most movies use the screen effectively. 2001 is amazing, but like Close Encounters, Lawrence of Arabia, like some of these are just so good. And I can also say, from having very recently seen Goodfellas and Seven on the big screen, 1,000,000 times worth your time. They are classics. They hold up. They're classics for a reason. And this is how they were meant to be seen. All of these movies.
Yeah, I saw 2001 at home for the first time, not on a phone, because phones didn't really exist back then, but I saw it on a 9-inch screen. And I remember thinking to myself, this is just a terrible, terrible way to watch this. It might as well be like on an airplane. It was the most pathetic little tiny standard def screen. And then when I saw it in a theater, holy crap. I missed 99% of that movie.
It's a different movie. It's designed to use the whole screen. Like it's so brilliant. And honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I've never seen Clockwork Orange on the big screen. There's a few of these I've never seen on the big screen, so I might have to get out and do it. Tonight is Citizen Kane, which I have seen on the big screen, but also is better on the big screen
for sure.
It's definitely worth it. So
I'm gonna look this up. This is great.
Yeah. Look at your local Regal and let us know what you guys saw. If anyone in the sound of my voice sees anything at Regal, we'd love to hear what you're digging.
Yeah.
So Ilya, what is your pet obsession this week?
Well, I'm getting ready for a little show that's in Amsterdam called IBC. Now, I don't usually I don't usually think of trade shows as obsessions, but this will be the first time I've been at IBC, which is sort of the European equivalent of NAB, which, of course, for everyone who is not inside the technical side of the industry, your brain's just turned off. But essentially, it is a big convention center where all of the gear that the industry uses, all the manufacturers kind of come. Now, what makes IBC different is, instead of having like 1, 3, or maybe 6 halls, sort of like Las Vegas where things are, they've got 14. So granted, they're not all quite as large as Las Vegas, but there's 14 different halls, and they kind of group the different exhibitors, the different technology people together. And it's really, really nice, because if you've ever been to a big trade show for the technical side of the industry, you know that it's like, you might be looking at something that's incredibly relevant to you, and then you hit something that's incredibly not relevant, and then something that's really esoteric. So let's say you were looking at lights, but then you run into like satellite dish manufacturers, and then you run into like electronic components. It's like, wow, all these people sort of lumped together, and this doesn't necessarily make sense. IBC does a really good job of kind of putting people in the same halls together, so they're almost curated, and they definitely feel more like a theme. The other thing about IBC is they program some really interesting stuff, some people to be there, like Thelma Schumacher is going to be there. She's doing a fireside chat. You know, she only won 3 Academy Awards, and she's going to...
Edited like every Martin Scorsese movie, I believe.
Exactly, right? It's free. There's also going to be a Led Zeppelin screening of the Becoming Led Zeppelin, and going to join the director about like how the whole thing was created. And so it's some really interesting stuff. They have a good lineup of speakers. A lot of the stuff that you can go see there are free. It's 4 days in Amsterdam. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm going to be productive there. I'm in a little bit of a booth, and going to be showing off our new reflector system. So yeah, it's going to be 4 days of running around, meeting people, and doing things. That's that unfortunately is sort of like my world for a while, because even though I'm not the world's biggest trade show person, in fact, I famously made a video about how I hate trade shows. I've been traveling the world and going to them because that's sort of the way people get to know who you are and what you're doing when you're doing something new. And our reflectors are brand new, so that's what I'm all about.
Wow,
at the moment.
I look forward to the full report of IBC. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'll give you the heads up when I'm back. So Ben, that is just about going to do it for us. Where can people find you if they want to track you down?
You can find me at benrock.com. Also on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook, not so much TikTok, but I'm around. You'll have a hard time. I mean, there are other Ben Rocks in the world, but I'm pretty easy to find. How about yourself, Ilya? Where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me over at Hot Rod Cameras, hotrodcameras.com. But I was going to say, I noticed something in my Google Alerts pop up the other day about the Cinematography podcast. We're on like iHeartRadio. We're on all number of like podcasting services. So I'm not sure where you listen to this podcast or watch this podcast. Of course, it goes to YouTube now, but we're on pretty much every sort of podcasting, repeating feed system out there. So I'm kind of curious where people are finding us. We do get a list in our statistics of things, but where are some obscure ones? Like, I hadn't thought about iHeartRadio for ages, but yeah, sure enough, there we were. All right. So Ben, who do we have to thank who made this show possible?
Our number of thanks have shrunken by a third, but really an extra third goes to Alana Cody, who's our producer and also edited her first episode last week, and it was a Herculean effort because she's having to learn the edit software, and but she's doing great. I watched the episode and I thought it looked great, and so we got to thank her for all the producing and all the editing. Holy crap, I know how hard it is to edit these things. God knows I've done them. We got to thank Kays Alatracci, who composed all the music that you hear on this podcast. Go to his website, Music by Kays, or visit his YouTube channel, Kays Labs, where he'll walk you through him fixing vintage synthesizers. I mean, are you not entertained?
That's pretty entertaining.
Pretty hypnotic. So, Ilya, you want to take us out?
Thanks for tuning in.
This has been the Cinematography Podcast, presented by Hot Rod Cameras. Find your next camera, lens, or accessory on the web at hotrodcameras.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.